We often hear from property management companies that they want to bring on clients that have a large number of properties. Today, I'm going to take a deep dive into this subject. Is it better to have clients that have a large number of properties? Or is it better to have a large number of clients that have a small number of properties? Let's take a deep dive into it, get straight into the pros and cons of each, and then from there, we'll make a decision on which one actually is more beneficial for your business. So to start things off, let's look at the pros and cons of dealing with clients that have a large number of properties for you to manage. The pros are, it's going to be much less work in terms of owner communication. So the time spent on managing the client is going to be much less than if you were to deal with a large number of clients that have a small number of doors, because of the fact that you're only dealing with technically one owner. So that requires less back and forth in terms of number of people that you have to actually deal with. The other pro is it's theoretically going to be quicker to grow if each client you bring on has a large number of properties. So now let's look at the flip side, the cons of this one. So the first thing is what I call the Costco risk. So Costco often puts companies out of business because that company is so dependent on their business that they literally squeeze them, make them reduce their prices, and then the second that they are no longer willing to reduce their price to the price that Costco would like to pay, they'll stop using them. And because that business was so reliant on Costco, they then go out of business because they just lost the majority, if not all, of their revenues. You have the same type of risk when you're dealing with an owner that has a ton of properties that you're managing, because if you lose that one client, all of a sudden you can lose 25, 50, 75% of your business, depending on what percentage of your revenues that client makes up. So that's a big risk. That is something that you definitely want to consider. The next thing that you want to consider in terms of cons is it definitely decreases the value of your business if ever you're looking to sell it. Generally, you're going to get a lower price if you have less clients that make up the bulk of your revenue, because there's more risk to the person that's buying it. And ultimately, if there's more risk to the person that's buying it, they're not going to be willing to pay as high as they would if you did not have that risk of that key client. Then the third con is when you're dealing with that owner, it's like having a boss. Because you're so reliant on their business, you're going to go out of your way to make sure that you do whatever they tell you to do, regardless of whether or not that fits within your company's standard operating procedures. So it makes it much harder to scale if you're super reliant on one client that has a ton of properties. So next, we're going to look at the flip side, having a large number of clients with a small door count per client. But before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know about Upkeep Media and that we help property management companies bring on new properties to manage. If you're looking to find out more information, go to our website at upkeepmedia.com/growth, fill out the form on that page, and book a time that's convenient for you to speak. A member of our team will reach out. We'll walk you through what your competitors are doing in your market to bring on new properties. We'll show you where you're currently positioned from an online standpoint, and we'll give you recommendations that regardless of whether or not we work together, you'll walk away with knowing that you can use to grow your business. So let's get back into it. So now let's look at the flip side, having a large number of clients with a small door count per client. So if we take a look at the pros, first one would be your business is at less risk of continuing to operate viably. If you lose one customer and each customer only makes up 1% of your revenue, naturally you have much less business risk because you can continue to operate without any major changes if you lose a client or two. The second one is your valuation is going to be higher. So to give you an idea what I'm talking about with this, if you have two companies, company A has 1,000 units and company B has 1,000 units, and company A, those 1,000 doors are made up of, let's say, 50 clients, and company B, those 1,000 doors are made up of 750 different owners. Naturally, company B is going to be valued more because of the fact that there's much less business risk for anyone that's looking to purchase the property management company. If they lose a client, as I said before, it's not going to significantly impact that company's bottom line. So that would be the second pro. And then the third pro is it's easier to scale in terms of following the actual processes you have in place for your business, because one client will not dictate the success of your company. If you have many clients you're less likely to have to go out of your way for each individual client because that client is not as significant to your overall business as, let's say, the case where you only have a few clients that make up a large number of doors. Therefore, it makes it much easier to make sure that your standard operating procedures are constantly being followed by your staff, and thus easier in the long run to grow a business that doesn't need you in order to function. Now, on the other side of this, we have the cons. The first con is it naturally takes a lot more work to communicate with owners. Therefore, you have a lot more account management overhead. So you're going to be spending a lot more time, or your team will be spending a lot more time dealing with owners because of the fact that you have many of them versus the flip side where you only have several owners that you have to deal with. Naturally, that takes more time, ultimately, which ends up taking more money as well. The next side of things is theoretically, it takes more time to grow. Now you have to go out and convince hundreds of owners to sign up for your property management services versus only having to convince, let's say, dozens of owners to sign up for your property management services that have a large number of doors for you to manage. So that's another con of it. It takes longer to grow, and overall, like I said before, you're going to have a lot more overhead in terms of managing the owners and their expectations. So now that we've looked at both sides, the pros and cons of working with owners that have a large number of doors for you to manage, and the pros and cons of looking at the situation where you have a large number of owners to deal with that have a small number of doors under management, you can see there's obviously benefits and risks to both. But ultimately, if you're looking to build a business that you can really scale up, that doesn't rely on you being involved in the day-to-day operations, and that ultimately can sell for a higher price when you go to actually exit your business, I would say undoubtedly that you are better off focusing on bringing in a large number of owners that have a smaller door count for you to manage than the flip side. But ultimately, it's your choice. I've now armed you with all of that information. You can make the decision on your own. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give us a like, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you soon.